We are coming up on Halloween, and you know it is time to get spooky. We're going to do so right now with Wednesday 13. They have a brand new release called Horrifier, and it may be spooky, but I'm going to tell you, it might just be album of the year. We'll talk to Wednesday next, right here on CHRIS Akin Presents.
Look now and we're all dead. Just put me out of my misery. I feel the news getting tighter on me. Your touch of evil, you're so grotesque. Your looks to kill got you so obsessed. Just me with a stare into her eyes. You're so hideous, so fucking hideous. You're so hideous, so fucking hideous. Now run for cover 'cause it's turning motherfuckers to stone.
It is CHRIS Akin Presents, and I, of course, am Chris Akin, and it is a spooky one here today, folks, as we talk to the Horrifier himself, Mr. Wednesday 13 of the act Wednesday 13. The album Horrifier comes out on October the 7th. It is killer, and we're going to find out all about it right now from Wednesday 13. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. Well, dude, like I was telling you when we started this thing, I love this record, man. It is definitely a contender for me for album of the year. It is very, I guess a good place to start is it is so much heavier than Necrophase, at least to my ears. It is very much heavier. Did you feel like that? And if so, why?
Actually, no.
Okay.
But I honestly, and I'll explain. This record for me was such a different just recording process. Like, it was during COVID.
Right.
We were trying to book studios. We couldn't get into studios without everybody getting tests and flying in. It was just a big hassle. So we decided to do the record at my home. We recorded everything at my house. I did all the vocals at my house. All the music was recorded out in my little studio garage. And when I finished the record, we had no outside producers. I did all the producing side of it. And when I was finished with it, it was the first time I'd ever recorded a record. I couldn't judge it. I didn't know if I didn't know if I'd made a great record. I didn't know if I'd made a heavy record. I didn't know if it was continuing with what we had done before. And I was literally just waiting for it to come out, for people like you to hear it and tell me what you think about it. So, but I'm hearing that a lot. So with that being said, what you saying, it's a lot heavier. A lot of people are saying it's heavier than Necrophase, and not that Necrophase was that heavy, but it definitely had a couple of songs like Tie Me a Noose and the Hearse were pretty heavy songs. And but I think the latest single, Insides Out, and just how it opens the album is so pummeling. It's just it sounds like Godzilla coming through, just this monster just destroying. And so I think that sets the tone of it. And then we've got some stuff I think that kind of has classic Wednesday 13 vibes to it. But then you get into stuff like Hell Is Coming and Christine, and just so yeah, it's definitely got its heavy moments. But I don't know. I didn't really know how to judge it, but I'm hearing people are saying it's heavy, and that's okay with me.
Sure. Well, that's a good problem to have, I guess, is to be heavier than the last thing as a metal band, right?
Yeah, definitely.
No question. Well, man, obviously, as you mentioned, you worked on it. You put it together during the pandemic. Crazy time for everybody. Certainly, as you were saying, it made recording an absolute pain in the ass to do. But at the same time, did having the isolation give you more of a place to be creative, where in the past where you would have gone to a studio or whatever, and you're on somebody's clock, you may not spend as much time being creative as you could on this one?
Yeah, that was a great thing that we had with this. I wasn't on a clock. I didn't have anybody telling me what to do. That was an unusual thing, because we've hired producers in the past because I wanted that input. But yeah, we definitely had time to be more creative. I just, just during the pandemic, not just, like everybody else, everybody got locked down and but the music industry just was pummeled. There was nobody touring or doing anything. So that was pretty much knocked out. And then I had a lot of tragedy and stuff, death and the family and friends and stuff that happened during that time. So it was a lot to juggle. I wish I could have had that time with good feelings. You know what I mean? So it was so the isolation was a lot of thoughts up in my head, but I think maybe that's what made this record sound the way it did. I mean, I always feed off my emotions. I know that bleeds into the music and everything. And so, yeah, I think this, but the one thing I wanted to do, I didn't want to make a sad record. I didn't want to come out and make a depressing post-COVID album. I wanted to make something that was fun, loud, fast-paced, and horrifying.
Sure. Well, and believe me, there's enough of those post-pandemic dreary records out there. We don't need another one.
No, not at all.
Definitely. Well, dude, for you, you've done a zillion records between Wednesday 13 and Murder Dolls, and throughout your career, you've done a bunch of records at this point. Where do you find that balance between sticking kind of on brand to what you've built versus trying new things and experimenting a little bit to grow the sound?
Well, I think, for me, almost every record that I've done in the Wednesday 13 catalog is we experiment a little bit on every record. The first three, maybe not so much experimenting, or the first four, but like once I established that I had a solid touring and full band, because the first three albums I went through different lineups. It was my first time going on tour. I was playing guitar. I was writing all of the music, all the lyrics, up until probably our Dixie Dead record in 2013.
Right.
And after that, the next record, Monsters, which was 2015, that's when the band really started incorporating our guitarist Ramon, bringing in his songs. Our drummer Kyle had just joined the band, and he was such a fresh breath to us, and just being this phenomenal drummer, but he was also a killer songwriter. So I was able, once they started contributing, that's when we started doing the experimenting. So the last 3 or 4 Wednesday records are, some people love them, some people don't like it because it's not the horror punk that it started out as. But for me, man, I love so much different music, and I like to try different styles of things without ripping it off and just putting my own stamp on it. But I think at the end of the day, it's always sounded like Wednesday 13, no matter what, whether it was the heaviest song, like Insides Out, for example. People hear the music of that and hear how heavy it is, but it's still got my Wednesday 13 growl. It's still got my sense of humor lyrics. But, for me, I was telling someone about that song yesterday, and they were like, it's a really heavy song. What were you inspired by as far as lyrically? I'm like, when I first heard that song, it reminded me of when I first heard God of Thunder by Kiss.
Okay.
Or when I first heard Captain Howdy by Twisted Sister.
Sure.
It was, those bands were, had their anthems, Rock and Roll All Night, We're Not Going to Take It. And here was this dark, boom, almost Black Sabbath kind of thing.
Right.
And I love that. So that was where the inspiration for that kind of song comes from. So, yeah, always experimenting, always still bringing my influences in, always talking about my rock and roll heroes I grew up on, like Kiss and Alice Cooper, and Twisted Sister. So the formula is still there. And I think this album, for me, I wrote a lot of the material this time as opposed to just writing the lyrics. So I think some of these songs definitely have some earlier Wednesday 13 influence, like Good Day to Be a Bad Guy or Hideous or something like that.
Right. And one of the songs I did want to touch on that really, shows, I think, something that you haven't done often. Really, I can't think of another song that is like this.
Uh-huh.
Hell is Coming.
Yeah.
Very country twang to it, sort of a thing. You know, where does that influence come from, and what made you decide to kind of put that twang into this song?
Well, and on the past couple of records, there was a song we had on the Skeletons record. It was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre influence thing, and that's a Texas country southern thing. So we had like slide guitar on it, and so on this record, I was thinking, we haven't did that in a while.
Right.
Had a song that kind of had a almost twangy, like you said, cowboy kind of vibe to it. And I was watching a bunch of old cowboy movies over the pandemic, and
Cool.
sitting around playing my guitar, and I came up with that riff. And it also reminded me of Danzig a bit, some of the earlier Danzig records,
Sure.
and it just came about. And then when I started playing the riff with our guitarist Vermont, he took it, and that's how it ended up being. So it's such a cool, weird. It's almost kind of got a AC/DC Hell's Bells kind of mixed in with Danzig's Twist of Cain, if I could explain, if that makes sense.
Right. Nice. Well, Wednesday, the first song that you released for everybody to check out was "You're So Hideous." Cool video, very, very fun, very you guys.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the video more than the song itself, because the video is straight out of a horror movie, man.
Yeah, that was the goal. I mean, unfortunately, when we filmed that video, we had everything was on such a schedule, and our band is kind of scattered out throughout the U.S. and the world. Our guitarist sometimes, but this summer he was living in Sweden. So when it came time to do the video, I knew I wasn't going to have the full band there. So I was like, all right, I got to make a great video. What can I do? And I was trying to find something lyrically with that song that would fit. It's something that's hard to paint the picture with that sometimes. I got the song figured out, but what's and I was thinking first, oh, this song sounds like, I call this song like a modern day a Medusa song. A girl turns and looks at someone and turns them to stone. And I was like, well, fuck, how can I pull off a Medusa video? I need some big bucks for that. I can't do that. And I was literally watching The Exorcist on TV when I was thinking about this, and I looked over and I'm like, I could just do this. She's pretty hideous in this. What if I'm the priest and I'm coming in and I'm trying to, and that's where the whole idea came from. And I'm such a big fan of The Exorcist. I had a tattoo of her, and hit my video director up and said, can we pull this off without making it look hokey and funny? Let's make it kind of serious. If we're going to do it, it can't be campy. Even though
Right.
it is funny to watch me get vomit thrown on me, but we kept the vibe. And once I saw the finished product, I was blown away. I mean, if you match it up to the movie, like we got the lighting, we got the vibe, and the actress, the girl in the video. I mean, she's the star of the whole thing, and none of that is special effects. She was a contortionist, so all those moves and everything
Wow.
she's doing is her natural ability to do all of that.
Wow.
So it was great. We took all the good stuff out of what I liked in The Exorcist. We got the vomit scene. We got the, her doing her weird stuff in the bed. And then at the end,
Right.
I jump out the window to my death. So
Very nice. Well, I'll tell you what, Wednesday, why don't we let people see a little bit of this? We'll give them a little taste of "You're So Hideous," the first video from Wednesday 13's brand new release, Horrifier, which is out on October 7th.
You're so hideous, so fucking hideous.
That was You're So Hideous, brand new video from Wednesday 13 from the album Horrifier, which is out on October the 7th. And Wednesday, it's not surprising that everything about this release has that little bit of creep factor that it has been you. And I wanted to focus in a little bit on the cover art, which is, I'm going to say the best. Yeah, behind you. I can put it on the screen as well. It's right there so people can see the whole thing.
Yeah,
it is fresh out of hell, really. I mean, it's got some, it's just I was trying to pinpoint it, and I was like looking at like King Diamond stuff, and I was looking at like some,
in there, but
and like little Motorhead.
For me, what it was, my artist Johnny Bush, who killed it on this artwork, and
Sure.
This is inspired from me being a fan of the Masters of the Universe line. This is my version of Snake Mountain, Castle Grayskull from that. And once the artist, actually, he didn't even realize it. Once he drew the carriage in at the bottom, I went, holy shit, you just made this He-Man meets King Diamond. And it was just a little bit of everything, and it just makes you, I'm a sucker for album covers. I still make it one of them as big of a priority as the music. And I want something that captures people. And this cover captures your imagination, and it makes you want to open it up and go, what is this? What is this about? It doesn't give it away right away. It makes you want to open it up, and throughout the record, it feels like you're kind of going through every room and castle throughout the castle of this. And our latest video for Insides Out almost looks like we're playing inside of this place. So we've created it all tied together. But this is absolutely one of my best album covers, I think, to date.
It certainly is. Now, man, you've been out there on tour, and it's a different animal now, but, with COVID subsiding. I don't want to say COVID's over, but with it subsiding, seems like it's very different out there. I know it's different the way that you have to interact with fans and backstages and all that other stuff. But from the shows that I've been to so far, the one thing that I'm noticing is there's a lot less people going. It just seems like it's harder to convince people to get out there. What are you seeing? Are you seeing like less people, or did you go in expecting to see less people, or am I just crazy and it's just the shows I've been to?
Well, for us, like I said, we're literally just about 4 or 5 days into this tour. So it's kind of hard to judge right now because the areas we just went through were not like our normal areas.
Okay.
We went through like El Paso, Lubbock, Texas, Oklahoma City. The show got canceled. And then we were in Arkansas. So there's some places we really haven't played. They were smaller crowds, but the tour we just did 3 months ago, that was our first tour since the pandemic, and our audience had doubled.
Oh, great.
And our merchandise had doubled. Everything was like, like what happened, so it's kind of too early for me to tell because we're not really in the areas yet where, I'll be able to tell that yet. But to me, I mean, from my point of view, it kind of seems like everybody's coming out to the shows because they haven't been to shows in such a long time. And, and especially for me, because I took the 2 years off. And also before that, I was a support band for the 3 years before we went out for COVID. So this is the first Wednesday 13 headline. It's also a 20 years kind of greatest hit thing. So I kind of have a little more to offer than just, hey, I'm in town playing tonight,
Right.
So
sure.
So yeah, I mean, I hope it continues when, the next, we have the day off today, obviously, but I hope the shows continue like on the last tour and there's people coming out, and yeah, so we'll see. It's always it's a gamble to come out on the road, because I know what we got to pay no matter what.
Right.
So
that is actually causing some major bands to not be out there, is the cost right now. The cost and the ability to find buses and to find support and gear and everything. Seems like everything's a lot harder to do it right now. How was it for you guys to book the tour? Was it, there's a lot less venues to play now. There's everybody and their brothers out at the same time. Was it any more difficult?
Nah, the only thing that's was difficult, I think, not really for us. We got lucky, is a lot of people were running out of buses because there's so many tours. So I know that really happened in Europe. We kind of had a little problem with that for a bit, but we got it worked out. I just try to book everything in advance, and we had a lot of stuff. Like I already had from the COVID thing. I'd already put deposits on buses that got canceled. So luckily, I was able to maintain a bus for us to go to Europe and do all that stuff. As far as booking shows, nothing's really changed with that. There are some venues that didn't survive COVID. There were some venues I'm glad didn't survive COVID because they were terrible.
Right.
So some of those places just shouldn't do shows. And we played them, but I don't know. I mean, it's not, it doesn't seem that different to me. I don't act with my fans like COVID or anything. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not even I'm doing what I've always done until someone tells me otherwise.
Right on. Definitely makes sense. Now, obviously the previous tour was the one that you did in tribute to Joey Jordison, which, obviously still, what a year plus later is still such a huge loss and such a, so it's really, I don't know, you probably have a very different perspective than I do. I mean, I met Joey a few times. I certainly didn't know Joey. I, met him, did interviews, blah, blah, blah. I am surprised to this day, in a way, how much he really inspired a whole generation of people to pick up drumsticks and play. I guess I just didn't. I mean, I knew Slipknot was great and I loved him and I loved what he did, but I never thought of it that way, as that he was, the John Bonham of the early 2000s. And he kind of was, what, as somebody that knew him and obviously did the band with him and whatnot, what was the reaction that you got on the tribute tour with like people coming up to you and saying, yeah, it was you guys, or it was Joey that got me into music or got me into playing? Did you have a lot of that?
Oh, I mean, I get that before he passed,
Okay.
But definitely people, talk to me all the time. And on this tour, we're still doing the same tribute thing as Joe.
Right.
We have a 3-song section in the set where we play Murdered All songs and we dedicate the thing to him. But I realized a long time ago what Joey had done as far as just being a phenomenal drummer, and what I call he changed the game. He was a game changer. You didn't hear people play drums like that before him. It just was not there. He took it to a new level now, and now all you hear is Joey Jordison drumming style on everything. But what I'm saying is, what I knew a long time ago, that Joey was a good drummer when we would be, on tour with Murder Dolls or be at an award show, and someone like Dave Grohl coming up to Joey, just almost nervous, going,
"Sure,
your drumming is," and just praising him. He was like Eddie Van Halen of drums. And then, Charlie Benante from Anthrax, another amazing drummer, right? One of my favorite, coming up, just asking Joey, just sitting there asking him, how do you do this? How do you do that beat? How do you do this? Just always this constant people, coming by and just, telling him how good he was. And I'm looking at it going, I can't believe he just, you know what I mean? So
right.
I knew a long time ago. And then when he passed, you really saw how much the world loved him, with all the people speaking out. I mean, I think everybody from Ozzy to whoever said something about him.
Sure.
He was, dude, he was a legend. He still is. And, he's the reason I'm able to do what I do today. And I learned so much from him, and I still think about him on a daily basis. And, he was a very, very big part of my life.
Absolutely. You mentioned Eddie Van Halen, and I think there's a difference between the two, and I'm certainly not comparing one to the other, but I think with Eddie Van Halen, the the talent was the only thing with him, because really nobody knew him outside of the playing. You know,
Right.
with Joey, Joey was much more of a personality too, to at least in my interactions with him and seeing him on tour and seeing the way he interacted with people. He was much more of a person. He was like a combination of a Dimebag and an Eddie Van Halen, if you could kind of mesh the two. Do you see it that way, or do you think it was just strictly the talent and then everybody looked at him and were just like, whoa?
I don't think a lot of people knew the other side of Joey. Like, he's just a funny, always that's why he and I got along. I made him laugh all the time, and he made me, and when I would make him laugh, it made me laugh. But he's a really funny, outgoing dude. You know, but he also, you know, he wasn't just behind the drum kit, you know, in Murder Dolls, he was the guitar player. So he got to come out front. So you got to see two different sides of him, you know, and all the other projects and bands he's played with, from Satyricon, Korn to Rob Zombie. You know, he had it. He had stuff. Right. He had it. It was in his DNA. He was built to be a rock and roll star, and he lived every minute of it.
Right on. Well, man, you're obviously out on tour, and I'm assuming you're gonna tour well past the release of the record. So what do the tour plans look like after October 7th, when the record comes out, and, you know, into 2023?
We're on tour now until December 1st. So this is the US for 6 weeks, and then 4 weeks in Europe. And then we'll take a break for Christmas. And we've kind of found touring in January is not the best anywhere because of weather. But sometimes we go to Australia then, and that's on the list of ideas. I mean, it's just going to be nonstop touring, and hopefully there's no major world event that shuts the world down again, and we can get the momentum going again and get back on tour, because we used to tour, you know, 8 months out of the year. So I think that's what next year is going to look like. But not just US. You know, South America, Mexico, we're trying to get it back where we haven't been in a while, and to some places that we've never been ever, like South America.
Very cool, man. Well, the new album, for everybody that you all need to buy, and I do mean buy, don't just stream it, buy it. Do these guys a favor, give them the money to stay out there. It is Wednesday 13. It is Horrifier. It's out on October the 7th. And Wednesday, where should we tell people to go to keep up with tour dates and you guys, and, you know, release and buy it and all that stuff?
My main website is officialwednesday13.com, and that has the links to everything, to our Instagram page, Facebook. Napalm Records is having the pre-order right now for the record. I'm not sure if it's still available, but we had a limited edition, a Ouija board for this release that comes with a Ouija board and the planchet and the whole thing. But I don't know I think it may have sold out already, but there's a couple different versions. So off that, you can go to Napalm site. There's a couple bundles and things. And we'll be on tour when the album comes out in Toronto, Canada. Cool. So come out to that CD release show and get the record there at the merch table and get it autographed and all that. So, yeah. And then wherever else people stream music, you can stream it. But I always say, get the record. We put so much work into this artwork. You have to see it. You need to hold it. It's like the Necronomicon.
Very nice. Well, one more time, it is Horrifier. It is new stuff from Wednesday 13, out on October 7th. And Wednesday, thanks so much for joining me here on CHRIS Akin Presents.
Thank you for having me.